lightning round, right? We're going to keep this wagon train a moving. I've seen Toy Story too many times.
That you have. That you have.
All right. So last time we spoke about child labor abuses, we covered a story focusing on Arkansas. And in that...
Speaking of a Toy Story.
What's that?
I don't know. It doesn't really go. It's the children. I was trying to connect it.
I got it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Children.
Well,
back to the children in the mines. Let's
children,
go.
Toys, abuse. Yeah. No.
I was trying to get there.
All right. So in that episode, when we covered child abuse in form of child labor,
right,
in Arkansas, we zeroed in on kids working overnight shift in factories, but you rightly cited agriculture as an area of concern as well. We didn't really get into it then, but since then, I think about a week or so ago, an NPR came out with an article, and it covered some disturbing news out of North Carolina. And I remember I was reading it as I was eating my breakfast and kind of lost my appetite. So basically, 12-year-olds, right? This is kind of where the child labor abuses start. There are instances of it happening younger, but 12 is kind of where they're allowed to. This is legal, right? And so 12-year-olds can't buy cigarettes. They can't work in grocery stores. They can't work in fast food chains, but they can work in tobacco fields.
Yes.
And this isn't an endorsement that they should start smoking or do any of those other things.
Right.
In fact, it's an acknowledgement that contact with tobacco is dangerous.
Yeah.
So you all know the smoking effects. If you haven't, I don't know, pick your head out of the sand. But when you're handling the plants themselves, nicotine can seep into your skin.
Yeah.
And these children, which I'm going to keep saying because I want everyone to feel uncomfortable, these children develop nicotine poisoning, which has a whole host of symptoms. Agriculture's hazardous occupation orders haven't been updated in 50 years, which is a joke that we kind of made last time when we talked about the compensation that you had for children being hurt in these factories. Yeah. It was so menial. What was it, like a couple grand or something like that? And we were like, wow, I think you're the one that said it, like those probably haven't been updated since they were written. Well, similarly, this agriculture hazardous occupation orders haven't been updated probably since they were written.
Wow.
And they haven't been updated in 50 years, and they don't include tobacco, despite the known risks for workers of all ages. So aside from the sickness, kids are being injured, kids are being killed. Okay? So I'm going to set the stage here for those of you who may be like, hey, it's a meadow, it's a Sound of Music. What's so working about me and working in the field, right?
That is not what a tobacco field is like, by the way. Which you know. Yeah. I was just saying, I don't even know where to start there, because here's the thing. Most people do not know what field work looks like. And the only reason I know about this is because The Atlantic, maybe like 10 years ago, it was a long time ago, they did a piece on children working in tobacco fields. So this is one of the older issues when it comes to children working in places. Well, basically, children should not be working. They should be out playing video games. They should be out learning, playing.
Well,
work and children should never go hand in hand. There should be something that we should be doing about that. There should be an area in which children are helping support the homestead. It's not 1862. It's not 1733. It's not 1600. We don't have children anymore in order to support us. We don't have children to work our farms so that we can, I don't know, retire and not have to pay, I don't know, some price for something. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying, people. Children should be working.
What's sad is that you're telling me that The Atlantic did a compelling piece a decade ago and things have only gotten worse.
I mean that's worse. Yeah, that is really sad, actually. But anyway, I was going to say that working in a tobacco field, the tobacco itself is actually really sticky as well. So not only is it poisonous, it's really sticky to work with. So imagine, I don't know, picking a fruit that is sticky.
I just imagine Chevy Chase in Christmas Vacation after he works with the sap on the tree and he's trying to read the magazine and he keeps ripping the pages every time he turns.
Except Chevy is 12.
Yeah. And there's one comic book that he gets that year and he just destroyed it. Yeah. So picture this, folks. It's summertime, 100 degrees in the sun, and you will find 12-year-olds working the fields in North Carolina. right? Now, for some reason, the agriculture industry has some of the most lax child labor laws of any other industry. I'm going to set the stage here with a couple bullet points. 12-year-old children wake up at 4 a.m. every day to work the fields. 4 a.m. 4 a.m. They go home dehydrated and exhausted and do it all over again, day after day after day. They are 12. They can work unlimited hours. I mean, that should just be it. They can work unlimited hours as long as it's outside of school hours, which means they aren't really learning much, are they? If they're getting up at 4 a.m., working unlimited, and that's really at their discretion, at their employer's discretion, and then they're going home dehydrated, exhausted, and what are they learning? They're probably sleeping in school. I mean, most of us sleep in school and we get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Can't imagine what these kids are doing.
Right? You can't wake up at
where's the priority here? What is the priority here?
And start school at like what, 7:30, 8 a.m. So that you're working for 4 hours in the field, showing up to school all sticky, try to get into a desk, pick up a pencil, stick it to your hands, pick up your notebook, still sticky. I mean, this is awful. I'm just saying, I want everyone to understand how annoying it must be to be sticky all the time. Not only that, but you're being poisoned and sticky. I just think that that's something the listener needs to really let seep into their skin.
Literally.
It bothers me.
It. Yeah,
it
should, because you're supposed to go to school. This is the time when you're supposed to learn to set yourself up for success later on, right? This should be the priority of our nation.
Yeah, like a preteen. I mean, so these kids are so impressionable. There's so many psychological things that are definitely going to be injurious to you having to work. And you
talk about the Republicans will talk about picking yourself up by your bootstraps. How are you supposed to do that if you can't be educated because you're dehydrated, you're exhausted? I would
ask how many legislators had to wake up.
You are literally poisoned. Well, you are being poisoned daily.
There's that.
We're sending these school poison.
Right. Well, I just want to say, how many of these legislators actually had to get up at 4 a.m. to work a job before they became a legislator? That's a good question too. That's the question I would ask if I was sitting in the Congress, regardless, whichever chamber. I would just say, how many of us have had to get up at 4 a.m? How do we know what this is like? How do we know this is good for anyone, considering the fact that we've never had to do this in our lives, in our lifetime?
It's unrelatable. It's unrelatable, which is probably why it's easy to ignore. Yeah. It's probably easy to ignore, which is why I keep repeating children, kid, 12-year-old, because I think that is the only hook here. I think that is the only resonant tone that people cannot ignore, is if you have kids, if you have kids in your family or friends or whatever, just picture them being poisoned every day, waking up at 4 a.m., as long as it's outside of school hours, not learning a damn thing in school, and they're just doing it day after day. It's unconscionable. Like, it's just, it's terrible. And to boot, all of this, these kids are sticking it out, doing what they think is right by their family or their situation. These 12-year-old children often get stiffed for their work. They have to sometimes fight to get paid. It's not even guaranteed.
Wow.
If the documents or the bundles that they've collected get lost, that's it.
So because 12-year-olds are really good at documentation, especially strenuous working environment where you're sticky.
Yeah. So efforts to change child labor laws in agriculture have repeatedly failed due to Republicans and farm lobbying opposition, and leave growers and companies left to decide what is best for 12-year-old children. The Republicans' argument, which is infuriating at best, is that changes to child labor laws would hurt family farms and, get this, and make it harder to teach kids about farming. That is the crux of their argument.
That this is an educational lesson. This is all education. So this is part of the education. Waking up, working the tobacco farm.
This isn't fourth period. This is their freaking life.
That's amazing. I mean, that's rich. That's rich.
Isn't
you
it?
Keep saying Republicans. Is it really? Is it black and white? Is it the only people supporting this? The more conservative avenue of our great political
I think
system?
I think when it comes to the votes, and you're going to look at in the aggregate, yes. Now, are there a few factors on sides? Who knows? I didn't look through all the voting records for every bill that's ever been proposed, but I think on the whole, yeah, it's a party thing.